Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Bueller, and today I'm going to cover the weekly watch list. Alright, so today I'm covering the weekly watch list, and I wanted to start with SPY futures and Nasdaq futures. These are very important indexes to watch. Other indexes to watch I'll leave in the description of the video below, and the meanings behind them and all that good stuff. But indexes are very important to watch. Just kind of gives you a good overall skew of like the market, of course, as well as just it's good to have a good feel of the market around you too. Because if you're gonna go trade something like tech, you need to be looking at Nasdaq to be double confirming any bigger or larger time frame moves that could be potentially happening pretty soon. So like last week, there's a bunch of really good moves happening from that. But let's start with SPY. So just kind of like looking just at the most recent month. You can see we've had a pretty good tear streak, but it's been with lowering volume for a good chunk of it. So that's what's kind of worrying a lot of people who are bullish. Now, it's not that isn't bad. That doesn't mean that we're just going to go back to zero or go back to the COVID levels, which is why I have this zoomed out. It doesn't mean we're going all the way to right here, but it is still good to monitor because, as you can see, we have been lowering volume for the past few days. So that's just something good to note. So I'm going to go ahead and get my trend line going. It's one of my favorite things to start with. And I always like to get two of the most important points on the entire chart. So I like to get the low, which I got the low right there, and I got another low right here, right before we had our bigger breakout. And as you can see, it ends up lining up pretty well with the retest. Had a pretty strong pullback here, another one right here. These are two of the more scarier moments for the market. But as you can see, we made new all-time highs and all that good stuff. So let's focus on that. So I'm also going to get my fib retracement, and I'm going to mark from the last breakout. And what I mean by that is right here. There's a good resistance from both right here before it came back down to the trend line, caught support and pushed back up. And then we had a bullish rectangle right here, bullish continuation as the resistance before price pushed through. So about right there at 39.60s is where I'm going to start my retracement. So let's start about right there. Let's go up to the high, 41.21. And now we have good levels for retracement. So I'm going to mark this 50% because that's probably the most relative spot. As you can see, I have green, blue, green here, kind of interchanging here. It's because this is the biggest range for retracements to come back down and test. If it ends up coming down and testing the 78.6, that would not be out of the question either, just because it is right on the trend line, so that'd be okay. So if there is any crazy retracement, we have levels to plan for. So if there is any kind of retracement, which in my personal opinion, I think we will have a slight retracement at the beginning from Monday to Wednesday of this week, and then towards the end you'll start to see buyers step back in. So I think we'll come down, test top of this range or within this range right here, and then push back up if we don't just completely sell off to the trend line. Which we'll have to also test on that because rule of 3 and rule of 5, we've already tested this trend line. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So I'll have to see how that plays out in the future. But no matter what, though, even if this isn't bearish retracement, let's say there's more push, then I'm going to see how futures open, and we're going to play above our highs. Let's mark our emerging candles, and let's watch those levels. That's what we're going to watch this week, are these levels right here. So let me zoom back out. So keep these levels marked, keep that trend line marked, watch for that 50% retracement. As you saw, I left that marked. So let's go to Nasdaq. All right, we're here on Nasdaq now, the tech sector, and I'm gonna do a very similar setup there from SPY to the same thing here on tech, except I'm not gonna be grabbing from here. I'm gonna be grabbing from down here where we pushed above new all-time high and rested as support. So we kind of have a good strong trend line going from about here to here, and I'm gonna go off of that. So let's go off of most recent breakout. So Nasdaq is in a little different spot from SPY. So SPY broke new highs and is already above. We're now watching tech to break this spot right here for the double top new all-time high breakout. So we're kind of watching for that now too. As you can see, we had a very, very strong downtrend happen to that trend line. Price held, pushed off of what took about a week just to hold there. Pushed to the right, and now we're pushing back up with, again, like I said on SPY, lowering volume. So it's not looking too hot from when we were over here, but you'll always have more volume with sellers than you will with buyers. That's just facts. So let's run our retracement. Let's see what can happen here. So let's go from trend line push. Yeah, let's go from here, trend line push to to where we are now. Okay, wait, I'm sorry. Let's start over on that. Let's go backwards with that. Let's go from the other high to the trend line bounce. Now we can kind of see what's up for resistance. So 1, like we were correct on this, is right there for the 1 breakout. 2 is the double confirmation for new all-time high, which of course is above the all-time high. But we have good retracement levels too. which even without Fibonacci, honestly, you already can do this. If you just go over here to the left, let me remove that. If you go over here to the left and use the TA routine, start marking your emerging candles, you'll start to see you can pretty much find all these levels without Fib and all that fancy stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark those. So we got our resistances ready. So whenever this opens up, we'll see later on today where it's at. But yeah, we're going to be watching above that level. Yeah. That's what we'll be watching for tech. I'm really bullish on tech, but just like SPY, I think that we just need to chill out for a second. I think if we don't just parabolically move up at open or beginning of this week, I think both SPY and tech do need to just, I'm not saying fly back down. I'm just saying come back down here and retest this for buyer control and then continue your strong your uptrend, So just kind of watching for that. But yeah, that's my breakdown on tech. I'll start to, in the next couple seconds, I'll start to break down into what tickers I have on top watch and why. But I hope this was helpful. Please mark these levels. I gave you the reasoning behind them because marking these emerging candles really, if you go watch the TA routine playlist, it'll give you a lot of insight on this as well. But yeah, strong bullish on tech, Facebook, Microsoft, all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next chart. All right, so the first ticker that I'm going to be reviewing is Zoom. I think Zoom pretty much almost always has potential for big moves. Zoom's just one of those tickers that really doesn't have to rely on the overall market to make a big move up or down, regardless if the market's going up or down. So this is one of my favorite tickers because of how unique it is. It's kind of like Beyond, in my opinion, or Tesla. It really doesn't need a whole lot to really do it. It can really just have a crazy day, but it's really cool to go break down on bigger time frames. The daily time frame, as you guys have seen clearly, is my favorite time frame. I moved down from the daily to the 30-day, 30-minute, and I can pretty much get most levels you need just from those two time frames. One, marking your emerging candles, but just marking these simple steps. Going through my TA routine, I can find all the most effective levels and all that pretty quick on all my favorite tickers. So let's look through Zoom. So on Zoom, all I have marked so far are my trend lines, both on top and bottom of the most recent trend. 2, I have this gap range marked, and 3, I marked a couple other resistances that I thought were pretty useful from previous price history that are under the previous price right now. So now we can kind of break down closer to price because now I have everything else around it marked. So it's marked the most recent support. So 305s are definitely good support. It looks like it's giving out some buyer control here, though. As you can see, back to back, we've had buyer then higher sellers take over at a resistance. So you may see a slight leg down again towards the more bottom side of this range on Zoom for the rest of the week. But regardless, we're going to be playing the BB system on it. So whenever pre-market pops up, we'll make sure to be popping in our levels. And what I mean by that is after you do all that analysis and you come over here, mark your pre-market high, pre-market low, previous day high, previous day low, and then you'll get a pretty good amount of levels before the day's even started, which will just sandwich on top of your really, really good levels that you've already set on this bigger time frame. So that kind of helps you break it down. So, you can get a good sentiment like I think it's going to go down this week. Kind of like I said it with SPY and Nasdaq, I think in the beginning they'll go down. But after that, I think you'll see strong bounces. So kind of watching that for Zoom as it's still making its way down this downtrend. As you can see here too, this is very interesting. Gapped up. Gapped up, gapped up, gapped up, 4 red days in a row, and you have all this seller, lowering seller. So clearly there's a good support around here. So that's why I'm kind of saying it's going to go around there as well. That kind of adds on to it, as well as with this range already kind of being here and forming. So that's what I'll be watching for Zoom this week, tapping on the BB system, of course, on all these plays just to help us out. All right, so here's SUNW. This is a solar stock. This is another one that's kind of approaching supports and looking really, really primed to kind of bounce back off of that support if it holds. If it ends up breaking back through, we'll reevaluate where we buy the dip at. But right now in SUNW, this is looking very primed. We already have some signals called out on this, but of course they can get a lot heavy. We can get it in a lot heavier when we get better confirmation. So just kind of marking previous breakout from this high here to the all-time high, or not all-time high, sorry, but to the previous high, 52-week high. We can kind of get a lot of really good levels. So let's zoom in right here on what we got here. So as you can see here, we've had price push up. This is during the parabolic rally, that initial rally, and we've had price kind of cascade down since then. As you can see here, is a little more aggressive. Now it's getting a little more calmer as it starts to range. It's making higher lows after it did that 100% retracement of that breakout. So that's very cool. As you can see here, it's making higher lows. 1, 2, we're on our third if this is where we're going to bounce. As you can see here, we have 3 black crows, which isn't really the greatest sign as you're approaching a trend line, but I'm pretty confident in it because you might have had rising sellers the last 2 days, But in the initial run, if you look, we didn't even pass up this candle's volume. So I think this is looking really good, really prime, because you can see this is the buyers that took us up from the same level. So you can see that the volume doesn't even add up there. So I think this is perfect for buy the dip. So we'll be seeing right here on how that's going to go, as well as there's a nice wedge everyone keeps kind of marking in my chat. Let's go down to the 4 hour. It's a little more cleaner. But everyone's talking about this wedge. That was pretty good, which this one was a lot cleaner than this one. This one's not going to be as clean, but still very, very nice. As you can see, we have another wedge forming to this trend line, so thus further giving us better confirmation and confidence behind this analysis where we think buy the dip is going to be good. So that's where we're going to bet our risk reward on. Out of all the plays we kind of been monitoring the past couple weeks, this was one of the better primed ones, so we'll be watching this one for good plays. We're already in partially. We'll get in heavier if it starts to bounce and push levels, but there's a couple other levels I want to mark as well. Right here is that emerging candle, that already gets that, we can mark that one, and then that one. So there's a couple levels here in the area that we need to get above. Really, this area, as you can see, has a lot of resistance just for multiple reasons. Fibonacci, different emerging candles, different gap ranges, different common resistances, doesn't matter. So there's a lot of levels here, but SUNW gets out of this little range here that it's in, and it's home free for this stock back on another uptrend. So we'll be watching for this to happen. Whether it happens from this third bounce, we don't know. But this is where I'm willing to keep my risk reward on top watch. So keep this ticker on watch for big bullish momentum pretty soon if it does end up holding this trend line. If not, then we'll be reevaluating this one. And here we go with Facebook. You can almost not leave this one on sleep. And the next one is just the same. I won't say the ticker yet, but you'll know exactly why I say it when I say it on the next chart. But on this chart, it has daily plays, just about. Every single week, it'll hand you really good plays. So let's mark this resistance because it's where the last breakout was from. Let's zoom in on everything over here. Let's mark these emerging candles. So we got that. Nice 3-bar play. We called out in chat as well. Everybody's been killing it with this one. ST, he's a big guy in our chat on Facebook, and I remember all of us on top of this one, so that was a really fun play. I really like playing as a team together. So let's zoom in on the 30-day, 30-minute. So I'm kind of ignoring all the levels below just because this is the new breakout. This is where I need to keep my focus, so I need to have all my levels set here. So now that I have everything set, this is what we are playing. So if price starts above this 313, we're watching for above this 316s for a better breakout. This is where a new all-time high will be made. If price is still within this range, we're watching this for a break above. This is the first target. This is a break below, okay? So, or maybe even this too if you want, but I wouldn't want to be aggressive. I would just focus on being very patient on Facebook. So I would just wait for the better level. If you want to short Facebook, just wait for that 309 to hit. And then, of course, target your lower levels here as this support hits, as well as this bigger time frame at 304.10 level. But Facebook, still an amazing range here. This is an amazing thing to see here. You never want to see a stock in a very loose spot. You know, this is a great range to see above a historic support and within ranges of its new all-time high. So might have been boring after this day happened. Another good day, boring day. But these boring days are giving you a range for a patient play. So just wait on your bigger time frames. You know, you wait on your 4 hour and wait for this range to break and then play off of that. That is going to be great. And then, of course, if you see Nasdaq start to rally and break that double top that we just looked at for new all-time high, if you start to see this, you know, you see this breakout, then Facebook and all the other techs are going to start to look even juicier too. So if you see Facebook attempting to break out with Nasdaq at the same time, this is going to be a very juicy play. Then you're going to want to go see your other techs, you know, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Tesla, all this stuff, just to go see what's lagging, what's leading. Then you can kind of evaluate what you want to play first. But let's move on to the next chart. All right, so here we have BA, and this is why I was saying it's just like Facebook, is because it is very similar to Facebook. No, this is not new all-time highs, but where it is in comparison to its chart, it is very similar. So just kind of marking good resistances. You have one there from an emerging candle, a common resistance here, which, as you can see over here from recent price history, was used as support. So you had a good little 80% entry here, kind of like the BB system. So very important to see that. That's good for buyer control. So now you know you're definitely in this range here between those supports, which were resistances, and then these different gap ranges and emerging candles. So we have tons of levels here to go off of. We can also mark this because this is where buyers pushed up before stopping again. So now we're kind of focused on this for Boeing. Amazing ranges, though. Again, like it might look like a lot on that daily time frame, but you come down to here, and man, it's giving you everything you need. So tomorrow, just like I said on that other chart, we'll be utilizing the BB system with all these bigger time frame levels. So keep all these marked, keep all your trend lines marked, all that good stuff. But also in the morning, go mark your pre-market high and low, go mark your previous day high and low with these levels, and you'll have tons of levels to go off of before the day's even begun. So if price is still under this in the morning, this is going to be really good for calls if it breaks out on this. This is a really, really good first target. Okay, so that's what I'm kind of watching on that. For below, I probably just wait till this 249s is broken, just because there is a lot of good support here, weakness here, I should say. So prices to go lower, let's wait for double confirmation between this zone, because there's clearly a lot of room under that 248 to that 245. So be watching BA for continuous plays again this week. This is a great ticker. If you guys can, please like and comment on the video. If you want, you can comment down below what tickers you want to see on the next weekly watch list.